Dream of the Red Chamber, Chapter 37.
After the family patriarch, Jiazing finally departs on August 20th for his post as the chief educational inspector, the Jie.
And Jiazing's absence is the key. That's the context that makes this whole event possible. It creates a physical and an intellectual vacuum.
The moment the cat's away.
Exactly. His departure lifts this heavy burden of patriarchal scrutiny, and it allows the younger generation, especially the female cousins, a genuine, if brief, space for self-governance and, intellectual freedom.
This was not a casual book club. We're going to unpack the sophisticated internal politics of how the society was proposed, the deep cultural references embedded in their identities, and the surprisingly draconian rules they put in place for their very first poetic endeavor.
The creation begins, ironically enough, with aimlessness. The source material captures Bao Yu's state now that his father, the source of all his anxiety and study requirements, is gone.
Right. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
Not at all. He was idle, wasting time, just sort of meandering about the garden. The text uses this really evocative phrase, "uyu,"
which means
time and light wasted, years added pointlessly.
A wonderful description of boredom. And it's his ennui that is just shattered by a letter from his sharp, intellectually driven third sister, Tan Chen.
Tan Chen is the true catalyst here. She recounts the beauty of the previous night, which followed a fresh raino.
Mm-hmm.
And the moonlight was described as being like washing. It was so clear, so beautiful. She stayed up past the third watch, Shiren, and refused to sleep.
And got sick for her troubles.
She got a chill, yes. Yes.
But the sources remind us of Bao Yu's kindness, which she's sort of repaying with this action. He had already checked on her, sent servants, and given her two very specific, very thoughtful gifts.
Right. Fresh lychees, the A, and valuable calligraphy by the famed Tang Dynasty official Jin King.
So she's not just writing to him out of the blue.
No, this act of reciprocal care and appreciation, that's the foundation for her whole proposal.
And the motivation here is so much more than just escaping boredom, isn't it? She makes this profound intellectual statement.
She really does. She explicitly references ancient scholars who formed groups, even when they were...
Years of political strife and rivalry.
Exactly. Even in chaos, they created these groups with legacies that lasted forever. And this is the core philosophical moment. Tan Shun is not just planning a party.
No, she's issuing a direct challenge to tradition.
A direct challenge. She mentions famous, historically male-dominated literary groups, like the Lotus Society, and she basically demands to know why such talent and elegant gatherings should be restricted to men. Kinji, call.
So she's using the high ritual of a classical literary society to claim intellectual territory for women who, otherwise have no formal power at all. Is that formality necessary to maintain their legitimacy?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
By adhering strictly to the highest level of classical culture, the poetry, the rules, all the illusions, they validate their activity as serious, not frivolous.
It's a shield.
It protects the society. It makes it something important, not just girls playing games. It's an act of serious literary secession.
She certainly sets the bar high with the invitation itself. She closes by saying, "If you come paddling in the snow, I will sweep the flowers to await you, Tenejum."
Pure elegance. An invitation steeped in classical poetry. But before Bao Yu can even accept, we get this quick practical interruption.
Ah, right. The interruption from Jia Yun, Lanyu. A servant appears with a petition.
And Yun's note is just a model of social difference. He thanks Bao Yu for the favor of adopting him, Yu, and he wants to show his filial piety.
With flowers.
With very special flowers. Using his connections with florists, he managed to get 2 rare pots of white crabapple, Treme, which he offers as a gift.
And he adds a very proper excuse for why he can't deliver them in person.
The hot weather, Dieu. It highlights the social dynamics. Gifts flow up the hierarchy, always with an excuse to avoid any improper contact between this male cousin and the young ladies.
So Bao Yu accepts the flowers, sends them to his room, and then he rushes off to Tan Chun's studio.
And when he arrives, the core group is already there. Baochai, Da Yu, Ying Chun, and Shichun. Tan Chun is overjoyed that her invitations worked, and then to seal the deal, Li Wan arrives.
Li Wan is the immediate organizational force here. She just jumps right in.
She volunteers herself and insists she act as the host and overseer that you peach for the society. She even claims she'd had the idea before, but, forgot about it.
A likely story. So with the organization solidified, the next step is establishing identity.
Yes, and Dai Yu, of course, with her sharp tongue and aesthetic precision, argues they must all adopt literary titles. She says they have to be changed to avoid being common.
But this is where the personalities really come alive, through these nicknames.
Oh, absolutely. Li Wan, being practical, chooses Old Farmer of Fragrant Rice, a direct, humble reference to her residence, Doxiang Village.
Simple enough.
Then Tan Chun, the initiator, suggests guest beneath the banana tree.
Okay, wait. A guest beneath the banana tree. That sounds quite charming and pastoral, but I'm sensing a trap here.
You are right to sense a trap. The name is elegant, but Daiyu, who sees the humor in absolutely everything, she immediately pounces. She shouts for them to drag Tan Chun off and cook her.
Cook her? Wait, why on earth would she say that?
Because Daiyu is referencing the ancient story of a deer covered by banana leaves.
Ah, okay.
In the story, a hunter covers a dead deer with banana leaves to hide it, then forgets where it is. So, by calling herself the guest beneath the banana tree, Daiyu is implying Tan Chun is the deer ready to be cooked and served.
That is fantastic. A high-level literary roast. The laughter must have been immediate. And Tan Chun, she has to come back with something equally cutting.
She does. She immediately names Daiyu, and everyone agrees that it is the perfect title. Consort of the Xiaoxiang.
That name is so loaded. I mean, it essentially pre-writes her theme of tragic elegance for every poem she ever attempts. For our listener, the Xiaoxiang consort refers to these mythological figures, Yi Huang and Nu Ying,
who wept over their husband's death, and their tears stained the bamboo on the Shang River, creating the famous speckled bamboo.
And since Daiyu lives in the Bamboo Lodge and is famous for her emotional, often tearful nature, the name Just, it fits her perfectly. It connects her to this profound tradition of romantic sorrow and unmatched elegance.
It defines her in a single, perfect stroke.
So next is Baochai. Li Wan names her Lord of Henju, or referencing the aromatic herbs in her courtyard. A stable, solid name for a stable, pragmatic character.
And then there's Bao Yu. He struggles to name himself, rejects his old nickname as childish. He asks them for help.
And Baochai, who is always observing, delivers the perfect, if maybe slightly barbed, compliment. She offers idler in wealth.
And she justifies it brilliantly. She says that combining true wealth with true leisure are two rare traits that Bao Yu manages to possess at the same time.
It's the most fitting title possible.
It really is. And he accepts it, saying he'll let them call him whatever they please. A perfect encapsulation of his privileged existence.
So the remaining two, Ying Chun and Shi Chun, get simpler names based on their residences. Plum Island and Lotus Pavilion. And just like that, the society is officially named. 7 members.
And the focus immediately shifts to governance. This is where the organizational rigor we promised really comes into play. They don't just agree to meet, they establish a formal constitution.
That level of administrative oversight sounds more like a government bureau than a friendly poetry circle. Is this formality a way of ensuring commitment?
It is entirely about commitment and accountability. They agree there were 7 members, but only the 4 core poets, Bao Yu, Daiyu, Baochai, and Tan Chun, are required to compose.
And the other 3, Li Wan, Ying Chun, and Shi Chun, they take on the admin roles.
Precisely. Li Wan, the old farmer, insists on being the host, the no. And Ying Chun and Shi Chun are appointed as scholarly attendants or vice presidents.
And they divide up the work. So one VP sets the theme and limits the rhymes.
Right. And the other handles the vital work of transcription and supervision. He. It ensures every poem is recorded and that the rules are strictly enforced.
And they lock down the logistics. 2 fixed meetings a month. Mandatory. Here.
Come rain or shine, these gatherings must happen. They allow for extra sessions, sure, but the mandatory nature just emphasizes the non-negotiable status of this literary endeavor.
So with the structure settled, Tan Chun insists on hosting the very first session immediately. Li Wan suggests the obvious theme. The 2 beautiful pots of white crabapple, Ji Yun, just delivered.
And here, a moment of deep artistic philosophy emerges. Ying Chun objects. She says they haven't seen the flowers yet, so how can they write about them?
That seems like a reasonable objection. Why write descriptive poetry before you have the description?
Because Baochai, the ultimate scholar, intervenes with her profound take on poetics. She argues that ancient poetry is primarily about channeling emotions and expressing one's inner state in you.
Not just descriptive reportage.
Exactly. Not just facts. She insists that if they waited to see everything before writing, they would have no poetry at all. The poem is about the emotion. The idea of the crabapple inspires, not the petal count.
That elevates the entire exercise from simple observation to an exploration of internal life. It's a key piece of intellectual insight right there.
It is. So once the theme is accepted, the rules become intensely specific. To ensure fairness, they decide to use a lottery system to set the constraints.
This is where we need to slow down, because the difficulty level of this task is about to spike dramatically.
It really does. Ying Chen randomly pulls a page from a book, and the required meter is the most demanding in classical Chinese poetry, the 7-character regulated verse.
For listeners who may not be familiar, why is that form so notoriously difficult?
It demands total control. It's an 8-line poem, and the 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 8th lines have to rhyme strictly. But more importantly, it requires intricate tonal parallelism. The middle 4 lines have to form 2 perfect couplets, where not only the meaning but the tonal patterns must mirror each other precisely. It's a technical masterpiece, and they are now forced to write one immediately.
And if that wasn't hard enough, they introduce rhyme selection, which involves pure chance.
Yes. They ask a young maid, who just happens to be leaning against the door, Errol, to randomly say a word. She says, gate, men.
And that one word immediately locks the poem into a highly specific, immutable, classical rhyme category.
That's right. The word men falls into the phonetic group known historically as 13 yuan. These were codified groupings of sounds used to standardize rhyming, so they are now restricted to only using rhymes from that vast but fixed list.
And then they restrict themselves even further from that huge list.
The maid is then asked to randomly pull 4 specific rhyme blocks from a box within that 13 yuan category. She pulls 4 words that the poem must use: pen, hun, hen, and hun.
So just to be clear, if you are one of the core poets, you now must instantly compose a flawless 7-character regulated verse about a delicate white crabapple flower, adhering to tonal parallelism, and ensuring the final lines use the rhymes
pen, hun, hen, and hun. The organizational structure has met a truly impossible literary reality.
And Bao Yu's immediate reaction confirms the challenge. He complains right away, doesn't he?
He does. He says that using pen and men for a 7-character verse about a flower is going to be incredibly difficult to compose with. The randomness has introduced maximum constraint.
And this final dramatic constraint shows us everything the source material intends to convey. This society is far from trivial.
It's a highly formal, ritualistic event designed by these young women not only to showcase their own immense intellect, but to validate their cultural status through rigorous adherence to the most complex rules of classical poetry composition.
And the atmosphere described in the source, it really reflects this beautiful tension, doesn't it?
It does. You see Dai Yu, for example, quietly reflecting, maybe touching a phoenix tree or watching the autumn colors, trying to pull inspiration while, simultaneously racing against this invisible clock.
That pressure cooker produced 4 major submissions, and the analysis of the results gives us incredible insight into what this elite society truly values. Let's look at the judging criteria that the old farmer, Li Wan, applied.
We need to understand that this judgment is far more than aesthetic. It's a cultural statement. The clear winner, the one Li Wan immediately favors, is Baochai.
And why her? What did she offer that clinched the victory?
Li Wan specifically praises Baochai's work for containing deep substance and mature style. Hang Su Hun Hao. Baochai represents a sort of conservative, philosophical gravitas.
She won because her work felt weighty. Enduring.
Exactly. And you can feel that measured approach in her winning couplet, which is really worth quoting. She writes, "Only when pale does one know the flower is more enchanting. When one has much sorrow, how can the jade be without blemish?"
That's a deep thought. It's a philosophical statement about endurance and hidden beauty.
It is. The jade must have a blemish because of the sorrow. But the flower is more enchanting precisely because it's pale. It's reserved, not flashy. This reserve power is exactly what the institutional standard prefers.
Okay, so in second place, we have Dai Yu, who is the total opposite, the epitome of romantic flair. She's described as writing hers in a rush. She raised the brush and tossed it off.
Just dashed it off. It was instinctual, immediate. And her poem is celebrated by everyone else for sheer artistry and originality. Bao Yu, the enthusiast, cheers for her opening couplet. He shouts, "From where did that thought come?"
I mean, that line, grinding ice for soil, jade for basin, is spectacular. It completely reimagines the physical world the flower exists in.
And the imagery she uses, it's just so evocative. She stole 3 parts of the pear blossom's whiteness, borrowed a thread of the plum blossom's soul. This is pure innovation. The others immediately say it shows a different kind of heart.
So wait, if the others felt it was superior, why was Dayu ultimately placed second behind Baochai?
And this is the crux of it. This is the cultural preference.
Well,
Lei Wan synthesizes the two styles, and her final words are the final judgment. She says, if one speaks of romantic and unique flair,
The Fengliubizi.
precisely, it is certainly this one, meaning Dayu's. If one speaks of deep substance and mature style, one must yield to the hang draft, meaning Baochai's.
The takeaway here is profound, then. The rules of the Begonia Society were designed to find poetic genius, but when push came to shove, the judge still preferred stability and classical wisdom.
The establishment choice, Baochai, over the brilliant, maybe sometimes dangerous innovation of Dayu, it reveals that tradition and measured insight hold more institutional power than pure, unique flair.
And the others.
We see Tan Jun's poem reviewed next and praised, but ultimately Bao Yu comes in last. And he acknowledges the fairness of the judgment, which shows that the system, though constrained, is at least seen as internally honest.
And then, just like that, the high-minded society breaks up. The incense is out, the poems are judged, and the scene immediately flips from muses and metaphors to the practical economic realities of the house staff.
The pivot is jarring, isn't it? It shows how closely the sublime and the mundane coexist. Zirin, one of the primary maids, immediately shifts into her administrative role.
Right. She's ensuring the house logistics run smoothly. We see her executing her management duties seamlessly, showing her efficiency and her authority.
She rewards the people who brought the flowers, making sure the labor is compensated. And the hierarchy of the rewards is respected.
What does she do?
She gives the two older women who brought the flowers a pretty significant reward, 300 kyuan for wine,
Okay.
and then she gives a smaller, appropriate reward, 6 queen of silver, to the boys who physically carried the items. She's methodical. No one feels overlooked. Then she efficiently arranges a carriage for an errand. She's the engine of the household.
But even an engine needs all its parts. And this is where the conflict starts to surface. While she's focused on this smooth operation, Jiren notices specific household items are missing.
And this is the seed of the next conflict. She asks about two things: a filigreed white agate plate, a really beautiful serving dish, and a pair of twin bead vases. These are valuable, permanent household possessions.
And the backstory for the missing plate is surprisingly revealing, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It highlights the fluidity of the rules.
Yeah.
The plate was taken by Qingwen to hold fresh lychees for Tan Chen, the third mistress. But Tan Chen liked how the plate looked with the fruit so much that she just kept it.
She just kept it.
It never occurred to her that this valuable piece of house inventory needed to be returned. It just goes to show you the absolute power of the masters to appropriate anything in the household simply because they want it.
And this brings us to the servant quarters, the real arena for the social competition, where status is earned not through poetry, but through proximity to power and the ability to navigate subtle insults.
Here, the stakes are existential. This affects daily survival, future prospects. And Qin jumps into detail her recent good fortune, framing it as undeniable proof of her high favor with the elders.
What happened? What was the event that made her feel so favored?
She delivered a vase of fresh-cut osmanthus flowers to the old mistress and the mistress. Bao Yu, the master, had originally picked them for himself, but then offered them out of filial piety.
Ah, so it was a gesture.
A huge gesture, and the old mistress's reaction was ecstatic. She was overjoyed, saying, "It's Bao Yu who is filial, even a flower he thinks of me." And she rewarded Qin with a few hundred keen, calling her piteous, born thin and weak.
So Qin is on top of the world.
Absolutely. But crucially, she doesn't value the money as much as the face, the layaminion she gained,
Oh,
the public affirmation of her standing.
but her moment of victory is immediately, and I mean brutally, shattered by the razor-sharp wit of Qin.
Qin just attacks her. She calls her a little animal with no social experience.
Ouch.
It's an explosion. Because Qin doesn't care about the gift, she cares about the meaning of the gift. She asserts that the new clothes Qin received from the mistress were leftovers. She says, and this is the fatal line, "The good was given to others, and the leftovers given to you."
Wait, so the clothes were a reward, but they were second-tier goods? How is that an insult?
It's the highest form of calculated cruelty. Qin prefers to refuse the gift entirely and offend the mistress, rather than suffer what she calls the soft insult, the coup de renki.
A soft insult.
This is the core insight into their social economy. A soft insult is a psychological wound. Accepting substandard goods signals publicly that your status is low enough that you have to accept whatever's given to you.
That is a brutal calculation. Kingwin is saying her personal pride and self-respect are more important, even if it means risking the mistress's anger.
Exactly. She refuses to be publicly diminished. And the others who are there, they immediately get it. They laugh, which solidifies Kingwin's victory. They make it a vicious, sarcastic joke saying the good clothes must have been given to the Western spotted pug.
So they're saying the dog gets better stuff than a servant who accepts leftovers. That's stark.
It is. It's an articulation of their turf war through sarcasm. And this high-tension moment brings us right back to the missing items. Mu Yu, another maid, interrupts because she has more urgent anxieties.
The vases.
The twin bead vases. They need to be retrieved from the mistress's house urgently.
Why the urgency? Why does a physical object suddenly become a political hot potato?
Mu Yu fears that the servants belonging to Zhao Yinyang's faction, a rival concubines group, might maliciously damage the vases if they stay there.
So it's pure political paranoia. A broken vase isn't an accident. It's a political attack.
That's how she sees it. It highlights how every object, every action, is caught up in this dangerous factional tension.
And the resolution to this little crisis is just perfect.
It is. Kingwin volunteers to go get the vases, but she's still operating under that system of transactional status. She jokes that maybe she can also run into some good luck or get a reward like a couple of ounces of silver from the public funds.
Even when she's doing a high-risk chore, she's still looking for that clear, non-insulting reward. It's always on her mind.
Meanwhile, Ziren packing up gifts for Xi Jiangyun.
Yes, and the details are everything. The text doesn't just say gifts, it lists them. You have these two beautiful cloisonné enamel boxes.
That's the e-boxes, yeah.
Exactly. And inside, seasonal treats, red water caltrops, water lily root, this special osmanthus sugar cake. And it's not just food. Ziren is also sending needlework she finished for Jiangyan and this prized agate dish that Jiangyan loved.
So even before the poetry starts, we have this language of objects and affection. It's a whole social transaction.
It absolutely is. And right on the heels of this very thoughtful gesture, Bao Yu, who's the passionate organizer, he makes this huge social mistake.
He's all fired up about his new Begonia Poetry Society.
And he completely forgets to invite Xi Jiangyun, the one person who, he knows should absolutely be there.
It's a massive oversight. He realizes it almost immediately. But his maid, Sharon, she's the one who brings in the reality check.
Mm-hmm. She reminds him that Jiangyan isn't like the others. She isn't free. She lives with relatives and can't just drop everything and come over without, getting formal permission.
So there's this immediate tension. He wants her there now, but protocol gets in the way. And then the servant, old Song Mama, comes back with a report.
And the language is so specific. She says Jiangyan is desperate to join Core. That word desperate, it just lights a fire under Bao Yu.
He demands they send a carriage right away.
But he gets overruled. Grandmother Jia, the matriarch, she says no, wait until morning. And that delay, that's so important, it raises the stakes. This isn't just a casual get-together anymore. It's a summons.
So after all that buildup, Jiangyan finally arrives the next afternoon. She's late. And what happens when a poet is late to the party?
She gets a penalty. But it's a poetic penalty. Leyland Wan and the others decide her punishment is she has to compose a poem on the spot using their preset rhymes.
And if you feel.
If the poem's no good, she has to host the next meeting. She has to be the East host, which, is a big deal. It costs money.
But she's so clever. She flips it, right?
Yeah.
She basically says, wait, you forgot me, so you should be the ones punished.
Exactly. But she takes the challenge. And this is where she just shines. She composes not one, but two complete poems.
While just chatting, apparently. The speed is incredible.
It's a total power move. And the poems aren't just technically good. They're packed with literary depth.
Tell us about that. What makes them so impressive to the group?
Well, in the first one, she's dropping these really high-level allusions. She mentions the Lantean jade basin, the frost goddess, and then a reference to the ghost maiden. It shows her spontaneous wit is backed up by serious classical knowledge.
And the second poem is different.
Totally different. She shifts the mood to something much more melancholy. You get images like jade candle tears and crystal curtain moonlight. She's connecting the flower's beauty to this very human sense of sadness.
So she doesn't just pass the test.
She aces it. The group is just amazed. They all agree these two poems just validated the entire reason for the Begonia Society to even exist. She proved she was indispensable.
Okay, so she's had this huge success. She's feeling it. And she's totally fired up.
Completely. And in that moment of pure artistic joy, she blurts out that she'll host the next one. She'll be the East host, and she'll do it tomorrow.
And that pure joy runs smack into a wall of practical reality.
The wall is named Baochai. Later that evening, Baochai pulls her aside for a necessary and I think really crucial reality check. This is maybe the most important conversation in the chapter.
She basically hits pause on the whole artistic vibe.
She does, because she sees the danger. She lays out these 3 principles for hosting anything, really, and they're almost like business rules. First, look before and after. Think about the consequences.
Okay.
Second, benefit yourself. Make sure it's efficient and works for you. And third, and this is the big one for Xiang Yun, avoid offending others.
And by offending others, she really means don't cause a financial problem that your aunt can complain about.
Precisely. She reminds Xiang Yun very gently, you live under someone else's roof. You have, what, a few strings of cash a month?
That's her whole allowance.
Right. And if she blows it on a fancy poetry party, her aunt will have yet another reason to call her extravagant. Baochai's point is that you cannot create great art if your social and financial footing is shaky.
So Baochai has identified the problem, but does she have a solution? How do you keep the party going without bankrupting your friend?
This is where her genius really comes out. She proposes this brilliant dual-purpose workaround.
Okay.
She says, postpone the formal poetry meeting. That's expensive. Instead, host a common invitation, a big, simple feast. The focus is on fun, not form.
A crab feast, specifically. And the key is where the crabs come from.
Exactly. This is the masterstroke. The supplies don't come from the household budget. Baochai says, we'll use the amazing huge crabs that my family's business partner just sent from the farm.
So she's leveraging a commercial asset.
Yes, and the wine, too. They'll just get some good wine from her family shop. But here's the really clever part.
Go on.
She links the whole thing back to an earlier, postponed plan that Lady Wang had to treat grandmother Jia to crabs. So suddenly, this party isn't some frivolous expense for a bunch of kids.
It's a necessary social duty to honor the matriarch.
It's an obligation. It completely shields Xiang Yin from any criticism. It's thoughtful, it's strategic, and Xiang Yin is just blown away. I mean, the lesson is so clear. Art needs a budget, and Baochai just provided the perfect funding model.
Incredible. So once the crab feast is sorted, the conversation moves on to the next society, the Chrysanthemum Society.
Right. And here, Baochai puts on her art director hat. She lays out her philosophy for what makes good poetry, and, this is advice that still holds up.
So what are the rules?
Rule 1, she says, is to avoid showing off with obscure or tricky rhymes. She calls that style petty or small-minded. It's a gimmick.
Okay, so don't get bogged down in technical tricks. What else?
Avoid cliches, obviously, but also don't try so hard to be weird that nobody knows what you're talking about. The real priority, the number one thing, is fresh intent. The core idea has to be original.
Fresh intent. I like that. But then she grounds it all, doesn't she? She reminds them that this is still just a hobby.
She does. She says their proper work is still spinning, needlework, reading useful books. Poetry is a wonderful thing, but it's secondary. It knows its place.
So to make sure they get that fresh intent for their chrysanthemum poems, which is a very common topic, they come up with a really innovative structure for the titles.
Yeah, they engineer a creative constraint to force originality. The titles will be a mix of a virtual character, like an action, and the actual character, which is the word chrysanthemum.
So it's not just ode to a chrysanthemum.
No, it forces them to be narrative. They have to tell a little story. And they decide on 12 titles to make it a complete set, like a chrysanthemum spectrum or an album.
And the sequence itself tells a story.
It's so logical. It follows the whole season. It starts with anticipation, remembering the chrysanthemum, seeking the chrysanthemum.
You get into the middle of the season.
Right, so you have planting, appreciating, offering, and praising the flower. Then it gets more reflective, with painting, questioning, and even wearing the chrysanthemum.
And it ends with the fading of the season.
Exactly. The final 3 are shadow of the chrysanthemum, dream of the chrysanthemum, and finally, fading chrysanthemum. It's a whole curriculum for art, laid out in 12 titles.
So with all these ambitious themes, Xiang Yin asks a really practical question. Are we still going to be stuck with restrictive rhyme schemes?
And Baochai says absolutely not. She argues they need to abandon that petty style and focus on creative freedom. If the goal is fresh intent, then technical rules just get in the way.
So they make a new rule. Only set the topic, not the rhyme.
A huge shift. But that doesn't mean it's not a competition. They set up a new format that's actually pretty intense.
What are the final rules for the competition?
Okay, so the 12 titles are posted. You can write a poem for one or for all 12. But, and this is the key, it's a race. The motto is, high talent and swift feet will be honored.
A race.
A race. As soon as one person finishes a complete set of all 12 poems, the competition is over. No late entries are allowed, and anyone who's too slow gets fined.
Wow. So it goes from a leisurely pastime to this high-stakes intellectual sprint.
It's the perfect blend of artistic freedom and competitive pressure. It's pure Baochai designed for efficiency and excellence.